Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of our listeners out there. You are listening to the English Flow Podcast, the place where we come together not only to improve our English language skills, but also to dive deep into personal development and self-growth. I'm Amy.
And I'm Jake. It is absolutely fantastic to be back with you all today. Whether you are listening to us while commuting, cooking, or maybe taking a walk in the park, we are so happy you've chosen to spend this time with us.
Today, we have a really special topic lined up. It's one of those ideas that sounds simple, but actually holds the secret to almost everything we want to achieve in life. We are talking about the power of consistency.
I love that topic, Amy. It's funny, isn't it? Everyone wants the big, shiny results. Everyone wants to speak English perfectly or get fit or write a book. But nobody really wants to talk about the boring daily work it takes to get there.
Exactly. People see the finish line, but they don't see the thousands of small steps that come before it. Consistency is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It's not about doing something amazing once. It's about doing the small things every single day, even when you don't feel like it.
I think that's the hardest part, right? The even when you don't feel like it part. Motivation is like a spark. It's great for starting a fire, but it burns out quickly. Consistency, though, that's the fuel that keeps the fire burning for years.
That is such a perfect analogy, Jake. Let's break that down for our listeners. When you start learning English, you're super motivated. You buy a new notebook, maybe download an app, and you study for 2 hours on day one. How long does that last?
Usually about 3 days. Then life gets in the way. You have a long day at work, or you're just tired, and you tell yourself, oh, I'll just skip today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes, and you're still tired. And that is where the trap is. You think missing one day doesn't matter. And honestly, one day doesn't. But missing one day makes it so much easier to miss the second day. And soon, the habit you were trying to build is gone.
That is such a perfect analogy, Jake. Let's break that down for our listeners. When you start learning English, you're super motivated. You buy a new notebook, maybe download an app, and you study for 2 hours on day one. How long does that last?
Usually about 3 days, and life gets in the way. You have a long day at work, or you're just tired, and you tell yourself, oh, I'll just skip today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes, and you're still tired.
And that is where the trap is. You think missing one day doesn't matter. And honestly, one day doesn't. But missing one day makes it so much easier to miss the second day. And soon, the habit you were trying to build is gone.
It's the all or nothing mindset, isn't it? People think if they can't do a full hour of study, there's no point in doing 10 minutes. But 10 minutes is actually way better than 0.
Exactly. Imagine you want to climb a huge mountain. If you try to run up the side of it in one go, you'll collapse. But if you take steady, slow steps, you will eventually reach the top. Consistency is about patience. It's about trusting the process.
Let's talk about the science behind this for a second. Have you ever heard of the compound effect? It's the idea that small positive choices repeated over time create massive results. If you improve just 1% every single day, by the end of the year, you are 37 times better at that thing.
37 times. That's incredible when you think about it. It's hard to see the growth on a daily basis. You finish your English lesson today, and you don't feel smarter. You feel the same as yesterday. But that's where the trust comes in. You have to believe that the tiny change is happening under the surface.
It's like planting a seed. You water it, you give it sun, and you wait. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing, right? You just keep watering it. That is the essence of consistency. You have to show up, do your part, and trust that the result will show up later.
I think another reason people struggle with consistency is because of perfectionism. They want everything to be perfect. If their English pronunciation isn't perfect, or if they make a grammar mistake, they get discouraged.
Perfectionism is the enemy of consistency. I've seen so many students give up because they wanted to speak like a native speaker after only 3 months. When they realized they were still making mistakes, they felt like a failure. But mistakes are part of the journey.
They absolutely are. Every mistake is just data. It's your brain saying, okay, that didn't work. Let's try a different way. If you are consistent with your practice, you make more mistakes, which means you learn faster. It's a virtuous cycle.
Let's give our listeners some practical tips on how to build this habit, because it's easy to talk about, but harder to do. What's the first step?
I think the first step is to make it easy. We often aim too high. We say, I'm going to study English for an hour every day. That's a great goal. But if you have a busy life, it's not realistic.
Right, so make it smaller. Maybe the goal should be, I will listen to 5 minutes of an English podcast every single day. 5 minutes is so easy that you can't say no to it. Even on your busiest day, you can find 5 minutes.
Exactly. And the magic happens because once you start those 5 minutes, you usually end up doing 10 or 15. But the barrier to entry is low. It doesn't feel like a chore.
That's a great point. Another tip is to habit stack. Have you heard of that? It means you take a new habit you want to build and attach it to an old habit you already have.
Oh, I love that one. Can you give us an example, Jake?
Sure. Let's say you always have a cup of coffee in the morning. That's an automatic habit, right? You don't have to think about it. You could decide that while you drink your coffee, you will read 1 page of an English book or listen to 1 English news report.
That's brilliant. Because you're already doing the coffee part, adding the English part becomes part of the existing routine. It takes the decision fatigue out of it. You don't have to decide when to study. It's just what you do with your coffee.
Exactly. Another thing that helps with consistency is tracking. When I started going to the gym, I bought a simple wall calendar. For every day I went, I put a big red X on that date.
The don't break the chain method. I use that too. There is something really satisfying about seeing a long line of X's. It makes you feel like, I've worked so hard for the last 10 days. I don't want to break this streak now.
It's weird, but it works. It turns the habit into a little game. And if you do break the chain, because let's be honest, life happens, the rule is simple. Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. I love that rule. Missing 1 day is a mistake. Missing 2 days is the start of a new habit. A bad one. So if you miss today, just make sure you absolutely do it tomorrow, no matter what.
It's about being kind to yourself, too. You don't have to be a robot. If you have an emergency or you are really sick, it's okay to take a break. But get back on the path as soon as you can.
Talking about the path, I think it's important to remember that consistency isn't just about the quantity of work. It's also about the quality. Showing up for 5 minutes of focused, high-quality practice is better than an hour of distracted, half-hearted work.
Definitely. If you're trying to learn English, don't just put the TV on in the background while you're scrolling through social media. That's not real practice. If you only have 10 minutes, spend those 10 minutes writing a journal entry in English or talking to yourself in the mirror.
That is such a good distinction. Consistency needs intention. You have to be present in what you are doing. When you are consistent with intention, your brain starts to realize, oh, this is important. We do this every day. I should get better at this.
It's like signaling to your subconscious mind that this is a priority. And the cool thing is, after a few weeks, it stops feeling like work. It just becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone trying to learn English. You are an English learner.
That's a powerful shift. When it becomes part of who you are, consistency becomes effortless. You don't need willpower anymore because it's just what you do. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and say, "Oh, I have to find the motivation to brush my teeth today." You just do it.
It's true. It eventually becomes automatic. I remember when I started running, for the first month, I had to force myself to put my shoes on. It was a constant battle in my head. But after a few months, it felt wrong if I didn't go for a run.
See? That's the goal. To get to that point where the habit holds you, instead of you having to hold the habit. And that requires a period of time where you are just pushing through that initial resistance.
How long does that usually take? Is there a magic number? I've heard it's 21 days, but that seems a bit short.
It really depends on the person and the habit. Some research suggests it takes closer to 66 days to really cement a new habit. That might sound like a long time, but it's just over 2 months.
2 months out of your whole life to change something for the better? That's a great deal.
It really is. And you don't have to change everything at once. Pick one thing. Maybe this month you focus on your English consistency. Once that feels like a natural part of your day, then you can add something else.
That's a really smart approach. We try to change everything on January 1st. Eat healthy, exercise, learn a language, read more, and by February, we've quit everything. Focus on one thing, master the consistency, and then move to the next.
Exactly. Success is about doing the boring things consistently. There's a famous quote by Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian. He said his secret was just to write one joke every day. He didn't try to write a whole show, just one joke.
That's it. Because if you write one joke a day, at the end of the year you have hundreds of jokes. You can build a masterpiece out of small, simple, consistent pieces.
And that applies to everything. Language learning is just a collection of small conversations. Fitness is a collection of small movements. A career is a collection of small projects.
So, for our listeners today, what is the one thing you've been putting off because you didn't have the time or the motivation? Could you start doing that thing for just 5 minutes today?
I really hope they do that. And you know what? Let's encourage them to share it with us. We have our community group online, and it would be so cool to see everyone committing to their own 5-minute challenge.
That's a fantastic idea. Let's create a space where we can hold each other accountable. Accountability is another huge part of consistency, right? When you tell someone else what you're going to do, you're much more likely to do it.
Absolutely. Knowing that someone else is cheering you on, or just knowing that you've made a promise to someone, gives you that extra little push when you're feeling lazy.
I remember when I started my podcasting journey, I didn't feel like doing it half the time, but I knew Amy was waiting for me, and I knew our listeners were waiting for the episode. That sense of responsibility kept me consistent.
And look at us now. We've produced dozens of episodes. We've had our ups and downs, we've had technical issues, we've had busy weeks, but we showed up. And that is why we are here, talking to you today.
It's true. It wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. And the progress we've seen in our own skills and in our community has been incredible. It really reinforces the idea that consistency is the key to everything.
Guilty as charged. We've all been there. But the best time to start is now. Not next Monday, not when you have more time, not when the conditions are perfect. Now.
I love that. Now is the only time we have. The past is gone and the future hasn't happened. So let's make the most of this moment. Even if your moment right now is just listening to this podcast in English, you are already practicing.
That's true. Listening is such a huge part of language acquisition. By being here, you are training your ears, you are picking up new vocabulary, and you are getting used to the rhythm of the language.
And you're doing it consistently.
If you listen to this podcast every week, you are practicing your English every week. You're building that habit without even realizing it.
That's the beauty of it. When you enjoy the process, consistency happens naturally. That's why we always tell our listeners to find content they actually like. If you love history, listen to history podcasts in English. If you love cooking, watch cooking videos in English.
Don't force yourself to read boring textbooks if you don't like them. Find things that spark your curiosity. When you're curious, time flies, and before you know it, you've been practicing for an hour.
Exactly. The power of consistency isn't about suffering. It's about integrating growth into the things you already love. It's about creating a lifestyle where you are constantly learning, not because you have to, but because you want to.
That shift from have to want to is so important. When you see your own progress, when you suddenly understand a word you didn't know before, or you can follow a conversation easily, it gives you a rush of dopamine, and that makes you want to keep going.
It's the cycle of success. The more you do, the more you see progress. The more progress you see, the more motivated you are to keep doing it.
So let's talk about those days when you really don't want to do it. We all have them. What do you do, Amy, when you have one of those days?
I usually lower the bar. If I'm supposed to study for 30 minutes, I tell myself, okay, just do 5 minutes. If I can do 5 minutes, I've kept the streak alive. And if after 5 minutes I really want to stop, I give myself permission to stop.
That's a great strategy. It removes the guilt because you did show up, even if it was just for a tiny bit. It's better than nothing, and it proves to yourself that you are the kind of person who shows up.
Exactly. It's about keeping the promise to yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, you should do it. Because if you keep breaking promises to yourself, you stop trusting yourself, and that's a bad place to be.
That's a really deep point. We often focus on keeping promises to others, but we forget that our relationship with ourselves is the most important one. Self-respect comes from discipline.
It really does. And discipline isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about taking care of your future self. When you study today, you're helping your future self who wants to be fluent in English. It's an act of kindness.
I love looking at it that way. It makes it feel much more compassionate. It's not a chore, it's a gift to the person you are becoming.
I think that's a beautiful way to frame it. So let's think about the obstacles. What are the common obstacles to consistency? Besides lack of motivation and perfectionism, what else stops people?
Distractions. Definitely distractions. We live in a world where everything is trying to steal our attention. Phones, social media, notifications, they are all designed to keep us from doing the things that actually matter.
That is so true. We need to create an environment that supports our consistency. If you want to study, put your phone in another room. Turn off notifications. Create a space where you can focus.
Exactly. Design your environment so that the good habit is the easiest thing to do, and the bad habit is the hardest. For example, if you want to read, put a book on your pillow. If you want to study, put your notebook on your desk before you go to sleep.
Exactly. Design your environment so that the good habit is the easiest thing to do, and the bad habit is the hardest. For example, if you want to read, put a book on your pillow. If you want to study, put your notebook on your desk before you go to sleep.
It's all about removing friction. The more steps you have to take to get started, the less likely you are to actually start. Reduce the friction, increase the consistency.
What about burnout? Can you be too consistent? Can you overdo it?
That's a good question. Yes, I think you can. If you go too hard, too fast, you might reach a point of exhaustion. That's why balance is important. You need rest. Rest is actually part of being consistent.
I completely agree. You need sleep, you need healthy food, and you need time to recharge. If you are constantly pushing yourself, you won't be able to maintain that for the long term. Consistency is about endurance, not sprinting.
It's a marathon. You want to be able to keep doing this for years. So be gentle with yourself. Listen to your body and your mind. If you need a rest day, take it. But make sure it's a deliberate rest day, not a giving up day.
I think that's a very important distinction. A rest day is part of the plan. Giving up is quitting the plan. If you are intentional about your rest, you will come back stronger.
Exactly. And speaking of coming back, sometimes people feel like if they've been inconsistent for a long time, it's too late to start again. They think, I failed so many times, what's the point?
Oh, I hear that all the time. But it is never, ever too late. You can restart your journey at any moment. The time you spent being inconsistent in the past doesn't mean you can't be consistent in the future.
Every day is a fresh start. You can decide right now, in this second, that you are going to be a consistent person. You don't have to carry the weight of your past failures with you. Let them go.
That is so freeing. You are the author of your own story. If the last few chapters were a bit messy, that's okay. You can start a new chapter today. You can write a different story.
I think that's what we want for all our listeners. We want them to feel empowered to take charge of their own growth. It starts with one small, consistent choice, and then another and another.
It's a beautiful thing to witness. When someone finally realizes their own power, when they realize that they don't need luck or talent or special circumstances, they just need to show up and do the work.
And that is something anyone can do. It doesn't matter where you live, what your job is, or how old you are. Consistency is the great equalizer. It allows anyone to bridge the gap between their dreams and their reality.
I'm really feeling inspired by this conversation, Jake. It reminds me why I started this podcast in the first place. I wanted to create something that helps people grow, little by little, week after week.
And we've done that. We've been very consistent with this podcast. And look at the community we've built. It's all because we kept showing up, even on the days we were tired or had other things to do.
It's true. And our listeners are the proof that it works. We get so many messages from people who say they've been listening to us every single day on their way to work, and their English has improved so much.
That makes it all worth it. Seeing that impact is the best reward. So, to our listeners, thank you for being consistent with us. Thank you for making us a part of your daily routine.
Yes, thank you so much. It's an honor to be part of your growth. And we really hope that if you take anything from today's episode, it's this. Start small, stay steady, and be kind to yourself.
Don't worry about being perfect. Just worry about being present. Just show up. That's all it takes. One day at a time, one step at a time.
And before you know it, you'll look back and see how far you've come. You'll be amazed at the progress you've made, all because you decided to just keep going.
It's a powerful realization. It changes everything. So, what's the one thing you are going to commit to today? Maybe it's just one page of a book, or one new word, or 1 minute of meditation. Whatever it is, just do it.
It's been such a pleasure diving into this topic with you, Jake. I think we've really covered a lot of ground today. I hope our listeners feel as motivated as I do.
I'm sure they do. It's hard not to feel motivated when you realize how much potential you have just waiting to be unlocked by the power of consistency.
It's truly amazing. Before we sign off, is there any final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Just this. Don't underestimate the power of small steps. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. Just change one small thing and keep it going. That's where the magic is.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, everyone. Your dedication to learning English is truly wonderful. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to our podcast and share it with your friends or classmates who are also practicing English.
Yes, share the love and help others discover new ways to keep their English flowing. We look forward to being with you again in our next episode.
Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep your English flowing.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.